Hi, Misha here, and while we're working on some bigger videos with kind of more engulfing topics, I thought it'd be fun just to do something pretty straightforward and simple. And last year, you saw us putting the first shots through this gun.
Let's see here. Little to your right.
Alrighty.
That's good.
First shots out of the SP5. Not bad. As you know, of course, the SP5 is an HK produced semi-automatic only version of the MP5 in pistol form. This has the arm brace on it and 8.9 inch barrel with 3 lug and threads, 9mm, and kind of the A5 style lower. Just thought we'd revisit that and have a little action, because in this video I want to talk about this. This is a recent parts kit import of a demilled to legal ATF specifications former Swiss police MP5A3. And as you see, it's quite a complete kit with a few extras besides. And one thing that's neat, Switzerland was actually the first foreign user of the MP5. When this was first introduced as the MP64, that name didn't last long, around 1966, by the end of the year, Switzerland would order these, and I believe they were delivered by 1968 and put into service. Those would have been the early versions. Throughout the 70s and even 80s, although the 70s were the big changes, HK would really refine the design. For example, going to this so-called tropical handguard around 1977, going to the modern A3 type buttstock that we know today by the late 70s, including having the rubber buffer in the back, and various lowers being produced. This is, of course, the finger groove one, hollow bottom. Actually, the early ones had a plastic kind of cap on the bottom. This one's, of course, what some call the Navy style. I think of as the A5 style, or A4 if you're fixed stock. And they went to this kind of baked on enamel type finish around 1977, 1978. And they went away from the original straight mags to the curved mags around the same time. And they introduced this scope mounting system around 1973, 74. All the things we know and love about the gun. So I'm saying that because that helps us date these kits. And there are dates, of course, on parts. So of course, if we can assume things like the bolt group are original to it or not, or replaced in service, who knows? But most of the kits seem to be either very late 70s or very early 80s. Although some earlier and later have been reported, because a relatively large number came in, well over 100 at any rate. And as far as I know, these were imported by Trident. I don't know if they demilled them or not, but whoever did take good care when doing it. So, yeah, let's just talk about what you get here, and is it worth it? Let's begin here. As you see, we do get the leftovers of the receiver. There's a rear leftover piece and then a front piece. Because these have been properly demilled, they are classified as scrap metal, not a receiver. Although it's kind of neat because we have a uncut magwell with still functional paddle release, push pins here. That's why I've kind of assembled it for you, just to show what you have. And this is an A3 with the, well, I wouldn't say the early style collapsing stock, because it is the concave with the rubber, but it's not the multi-position type. So here it is deployed out, just old school, in or out. Back in the day, options weren't that important. So that's a nice feature, even though these kits do have varying degrees of wear. They are cosmetic, not mechanical, meaning you could always refinish, repaint, and be in good shape. So that's neat. We'll talk about the lower when we flip it over. One kind of neat aspect is the triple frame. Notice it has an open top, whereas most of your HKs have the enclosed globe. And I'd imagine this is because these came with a sight. This one has a Trijicon fiber optic with tritium red dot, although since it's old, the tritium's I'm sure dead. And it actually mounts where the rear sight would be. And then, you know, fits over, clamps on where the scope mount would be, except because of the demill, that part is gone. Kind of neat. And what if you don't want to use this kind of, frankly, outdated, although I still think cool, sight? Well, the kit does have you covered. The original Heckler & Koch adapter is included. And it uses the same screw for either the sight or the other sight. It screws in there. I've noticed that it does have the windage screw, and it even has the bracket, but I think this one might be missing the small spring, or maybe I just didn't catch it. So you might have to replace the spring if you want to go back to the sight. Old school optic though. It is lightweight, I'll give it that. I'm not going to put this on all the way, just wanted to show you that it does have the rear sight, which is actually something I was curious about when ordering this, if it would come with it. So happy to report it does. And moving on, these come with different handguards. Seems like a lot do come with the Surefire type flashlight handguard, although that's not the only one. Some may have the B+T flashlight handguard. Some may have a B+T railed handguard. Or some may have the classic tropical export wide handguard. Just kind of, you know, luck of the draw to some extent, which one you get. And I don't know, I know these are said to have cosmetic wear and tear, and there's no return for that, but I don't know if warranty for these to be functional with good bulbs applies or not. It's kind of one of those things. So you do get handguards, kind of completing the package there as far as a little bit of accessorization. And enough with that said, let's flip it over. Surprisingly, they look pretty much the same. The cocking handle is still in the tube. In fact, this is all one piece up here. And we have the polymer lower. Interestingly, this has a safe semi-limited lower with this, I don't know, washer or nut here in it to keep it from moving further. Yeah. Of course, all that's there. And you'll have some original markings throughout, codes, including on the top. With that, let's go back and look at a little bit more range footage from the SP5, because that's basically what we have here as far as configuration. Just a little bit more old school. SP5. Fuck you, Osama. And as you saw in the shooting video clips, they did a very good job with the brace replicating the A3 stock here. I still think that's interesting how that's the cut off top style. These will ship with one magazine. I believe this one was dated 1980. I might be thinking of another one. I know one of the kits came with a 1980 mag. And they'll either be HK or POF, which is a contractor. Considering most kits do not come with a mag, hey. And you also get a used, but still cool, sling. I think the shoulder pad is kind of the neatest part. It's a simple 2-point sling, nothing really fancy. This one has a little bit of wear, some of them don't. I ordered a couple of kits, I just thought it was interesting. I actually wanted them for the parts. So, yeah, you get a magazine and a sling, and we'll get some kind of handguard and some kind of sight. Now, as you know, since 2005, kits aren't allowed in, at least in most situations, with a barrel. So the original 40, 50-year-old barrels are gone. They're cut up. Of course, they were used. In most kits, that's it. You just don't get a barrel. But I've got to give props to whoever did this kit. If you're lucky, kits today will come with a US-made barrel. And if you're in the HK market, in like a rim country or something, an RCM, it's still quite good. But Trident or whoever did these together went above and beyond. So never fear, a barrel is here. Included is a cold hammer forged chrome line barrel. It is 8.9 inches long. It has the 3-lug and it's threaded 1/2 x 28. Even better, it's made by Brugger and Thomat. B+T actually has a license to produce the MP5 in Switzerland because the Swiss continued to use them and use them today. Mostly you'll think of Swiss police, and that's correct. But also Swiss special forces like ARD-10 have some MP5s and MP5 SDs, as do the Swiss Special Forces Command's military police units. So a lot of the special units have had or still do have these in Switzerland. And as if a B+T barrel is not good enough, this is actually a brand new one, never installed in a gun. So it's not cut up front for the pin, the back, meaning that inside will be perfect rifling. And since it's from B+T, A, you know these are expensive, and B, these should be damn accurate. I think that's quite cool of them to include a barrel, and not just any barrel, but a quality barrel too. With that, let's look inside briefly. Like I said, I just kind of put it together because I thought it'd look cool. Go push pins. But let's look inside for a minute. So after pulling the pins, here's our front. This is very obviously very carefully cut. I mean, still complying with the law, but not bad. And the trunnion is still in there. We do have a complete bolt group. I'm not sure how much wear and tear we should expect to see. I'm sure it varies kit to kit. But like a lot of police guns, probably not fired a whole lot. Certainly not grody. I'll give it that. Here's our rear receiver scrap chunk. Again, neatly chopped off. The center section again is missing, not included per the law. Standard bolt group. And then here's the stock, probably one of the more interesting pieces. The buffer is still in the back, and doesn't seem too battered up. The stock moves easily enough. Checkered butt plate. A few small nicks on the plastic there. And finally, that interestingly limited to semi trigger pack assembly. Standard HK. And we also have the usual bag of small parts. And here that is. Not much in there. There's some components for the sight. There's a barrel pin, front sling loop. Actually, because this is a HK design and relatively simple, and most of it being modular, there's, not a big bag of parts. And my table is definitely getting messy. So with that, let's have one more clip, this time with J-Ro, and then we'll wrap things up. Alrighty, SP5.
Pretty smooth.
And that's with Tula too, so even cycles Tula. Modern 3-point slings are so big and messy. Almost makes me want to use the more simple one that came with the kit. As you know, I'm not the world's biggest HK fan, but I certainly like them. And so over the years, I picked different guns up as they come across my path. I'm not planning on using this to build another gun. I actually picked it up for parts. Having the B+T barrel, that's just nice. Spare barrel. Having a mag never hurts. And having an A3 stock, I could always put this on my POF, which is a carbine, or I could SBR this one. The lower, not a lot of use for this, personally, but it is a classic lower, and these are easy enough to convert, even making them into a clipped and pinned if you like. Receiver sections are neat, but yeah. And the handguard, cool to have. And for looks, having an old school Trijicon ACOG type, I can't be beat. Plus, I actually did need an HK standard rear sight for these SP5s because when they shipped these, at least when I got mine, they were still shipping with the pistol, the kind of castle turret style rear sight. From what I've heard, the newer ones do come with the correct rear sight, but I needed one for this gun anyway. So, I don't know, it was neat, it's different, and as usual, the only real downside is the cost. Nothing HK is inexpensive, and you can imagine what a Swiss demilled kit with actual receiver stubs, a B+T barrel, an A3 stock, a Surefire or B+T handguard, magazine, old school ACOG. Yeah, they're not inexpensive, unfortunately. But kits have kind of become a good and non-firearm investment, so yeah, that's why I just picked up a couple to study and look at. And they both had the limited lower in the A3 stock. And I think some actually came with old school Meprolite sights, but mine both came with ACOG Trijicon types. Like I said, we're working on bigger videos, more topical ones. This came in a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, yeah, why not talk about it? So what do you think? Have you ever built an MP5 from a kit? Or like me, maybe you would find one of these interesting to accessorize one of your guns. And it wouldn't necessarily have to be an SP5. It could be an AT94 or a AP94, an old Vector V94. I don't know. Since these are HK parts or Berger and Thomat licensed produced parts, they should work just fine. But I'd like to know what you think. Again, little wear and tear, but it seems to be very surface. Looking at the internals, this does not seem to have been a high round count gun, especially if it was restricted to semi-auto and service. Of course, it's 9mm, the usual. If you were to build it up, it would probably weigh about 6¼ pounds. That's typically what the A3s were, because the stock does add a little weight. A fixed stock's actually a tiny bit lighter, about 6 to 5.9 pounds. And with the stock extended and the 8.9-inch barrel, you'd be at about 27.5 inches, and the stock retracted in removes about 6 inches, getting us down to about 21.5. Some barrels, especially the earlier ones, wouldn't have the 1/2 by 28 threads. This is kind of the Navy style end, but pretty much all your modern MP5 barrels do have that feature now. So yeah, as always, if you could, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, if you would like to help the sub-channel, I've been talking for a while, this channel, support things, check out the link to the Patreon page. Trying to work on some new stuff coming up in the summer, so maybe have a few surprises, including a new build, not this one, but a different one, that should be ready in the next couple of weeks, so we will see. With that, I appreciate you hanging out with me middle of this week. Hope everyone is doing alright, all things considered. This is Misha, and we'll catch you very soon, next time.